Hi, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be building what I've deemed a cliffside cafe with a couple of extras, as you can see. Maybe it's a little bit more of a restaurant. I don't know. I'll leave that up to your own interpretation. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, I thought it might be a little interesting to add some commentary over this, like after the fact. Obviously, be sure to let me know in the comments below if you prefer it with or without. Maybe just going over like my thought processes when I'm thinking for some of this stuff. But yeah, so pretty much I had this idea for a little cafe on the side of a cliff, kind of supported by these beams, um, like 45-degree angle beams. I think they're called like trusses or something, but so that's pretty much what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of laying out where I want them to go. Uh, typically I mark out what kind of dimensions I want with I guess whatever block I'm using to represent structural integrity, and at the moment I'm using a lot of quartz, which is one of my favorite blocks. Um, so I put one of the braces, I guess, on the furthest block outside, and then I put one kind of offset to see which I liked better. And I ended up liking the offset look a lot more, so I ended up just replicating that on the other side as well. Um, and that's kind of a lot of my building process is just kind of doing and then seeing what looks good. And so oftentimes you'll see a lot of me building and then tearing down and then rebuilding and rinse repeat, which I think is a big part of the process when it comes to I guess being creative in general. But yeah, so I also had this idea that I wanted to use the bamboo blocks for this, the waffle blocks specifically. Um, because I had seen a couple builds with it recently, and I thought it looked pretty cool. Um, as you'll see later on, I ended up switching up on it. I just think the contrast looked a lot better. Typically when you use a very light block, like quartz, for example, you want to contrast it with a darker block. And bamboo is obviously another light block. So, but I think it was worth a shot at the very least. It is a very cool block, right? There are a lot of different options, I think. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting ready to kind of put the bottom in, and uh, I chose stone brick slabs for this, just to kind of give it a bit of depth underneath, but also giving me options on top to replace the floor should I want to, instead of, just being bare. There's also some stuff you can do with the underside that's pretty interesting. Like maybe you add another block underneath it as like another offset or something. Um, but yeah, so I think it was at this point that I kind of got tired of the snow. So I spent some time getting rid of that. Um, I guess that's one of the downsides of building on a mountain, but hey, I think the views certainly outweigh the fact that you get snow. It'd be nice if there was some tool you could make, like a snowblower or something in Minecraft. But maybe like making the blocks heated. I don't know. Something would be nice. So here I'm just kind of experimenting with patterns for the flooring. Again, there are a few bamboo blocks that are pretty cool, and I was just kind of trying to use one of them. I ended up not liking it very much and quickly replaced it with the waffle block. And so I kind of went with this pattern of circles, well, rectangles, I guess, right? But yeah, and I ended up liking it. So what I did is filled out the rest here, and then eventually I'll extend the rectangles down a little bit. This ended up being for naught though, unfortunately, as the, I guess, design of the building itself kind of counteracted what I did here. But I think, you know, like, it was cool to experiment with the block, as I don't use it very often. So here I'm kind of setting the foundation for what will be the interior for both the kitchen and I guess waitstaff area. I didn't want to make it too big, so that I'd have a lot of space for, you know, tables and stuff. But I think for the purpose of it being a cafe, typically cafes don't have very big kitchens. You know, it's more you go there to get like coffee and like maybe a bagel or something. So it's not like really a dine-in restaurant. Though I think at the end it kind of looks a little bit more like a dine-in restaurant than my initial vision. So yeah, what I'm doing here now, as well as kind of setting up where the roof is going to meet the structure, and then putting a couple of support points up as well. And I used some of the, I guess, stone fences, some stone walls, whatever they're called. Very nice block. I really should utilize it more, I think. You know, the way I've seen it used in a lot of builds is really cool. And so it kind of inspired me a little bit to use them in this build. Lay out some glass panes as well. Set up some windows here as the sun starts to go down. Then I'm gonna set up kind of the area where you go to order. So the idea with that is that you'd order from the outside, and like, you know, they cook it and then bring it out, right? Here I'm kind of setting the, I guess, the vertex, right? Whatever it's called. It's where the peak of the roof meets. So I was thinking I wanted a pretty low-lying roof. I didn't want it to be very high. So initially I started with stairs, and then I moved to slabs. I think the slabs looked a lot better for what I was trying to achieve. And again, I'm using quartz here to kind of represent the structural points, the load-bearing points, I think is what they're called. It's, you know, I took civil engineering at one point. You'd think I'd remember these things. I don't. So, yeah, I did 4 of them kind of at intervals. And now I'm just kind of experimenting with what's going to make up the remainder of the roof. So I went to spruce wood, which I think is well and away my favorite type of tree in Minecraft, and you know, I think it looks really nice against quartz here. That's kind of what would eventually give me the motivation to get rid of the bamboo flooring. And we're just kind of making these little areas look a little bit nicer. on the roof. Then I also had an idea for the middle section to kind of make it like a window. I don't know what these are called, but I wanted it to kind of punch like straight through. So I experimented with the height a little bit. Ended up thinking it was a little bit too high, so I'd eventually go and fix that. So put the windows in, you know. Take a step back. Yeah. It was at that point I was like, yeah, it's a little too high for what I'm looking for. Just kind of connect it with the quartz slabs. It's another block, that chiseled stone that I don't use a whole lot of. Like, I use a ton of stone brick in my builds. Probably my favorite block in the entire game. Super easy to get in survival, you know, and it just looks really nice. So here I'm kind of experimenting a little bit more with the flooring. I ended up going with like stripped spruce logs. Yeah, and I tried a little bit with like a checkerboard type pattern. Didn't like it. Then I experimented a little bit with these lines. Didn't like it. I tried it horizontally. Didn't like it. You know, and I ended up just saying, you know what, forget it. So then I went with the regular spruce logs to kind of outline. And that's what I would end up keeping, is this kind of look here. Cool thing about logs especially, you know, is they have like two sides. So you can use the same block for two different things. Yeah, so here I was kind of enclosing the roof. I had these two kind of awkward points where I had to dangle a little bit to get them to seal up, and it looked, you know, kind of nice. I think I probably could have done a better job there, but I was at least happy enough with it. And then I started messing around with the same sort of point, but on the interior, from room to room. And so this is, I think, the only place in the build that I ended up using the stone brick stairs for anything. I think it turned out alright. So the build's finally starting to look a little bit, you know, like an actual building. So yeah, I finally decided, you know, we're not doing bamboo. Kind of had it. So this is what would end up being the kitchen, and I ended up going for a combination of brick and spruce planks. Because I think like brick, I don't use another block. I just don't really utilize a whole lot. And I think under certain circumstances it can look really nice, like the floor of a kitchen, for example. So then I kind of started on the pathway into the build. I just went with like cobblestone and stone brick. Knocked out quite a bit of the exterior to give me some space. We moved back to these little spots, just like kind of awkward spots where the roof meets the build. Again, just kind of experimenting with different blocks here. I believe I went with spruce initially, yeah. Looked at it from the outside and I wasn't like super happy with it, so I tore it down and ended up going with stone brick, believe it or not. So then I end up doing that on both sides, eventually. I replaced this with slabs. Thought it looked a little bit nicer. Did the same thing on the other side. So then we're pretty much done with the roof at this point. So I finally moved to interiors. I'd say interiors, generally speaking, are one of my weaknesses as a builder. So a lot of the time I spend a lot of time thinking, on what I want to do. And right, I forgot about this. So I changed some of the structural points here to andesite, just to give it a little more variety, I guess. Okay, yeah, so now we get back to the kitchen. And I went with slabs, mostly because if you use a block next to a pane, then it connects and it just kind of looks ugly. So then I did a little sink, and this is like my go-to. I'm sure a lot of people do it with making a sink. I used to cauldron water tripwire hook for the faucet, and it looks pretty nice. So I went with the smokers for the furnaces. I spent a while trying to figure out what I was going to use for the cooking spots, and I completely forgot these blocks existed. I feel like that was kind of a reoccurring theme with this build, is me just kind of looking through the catalog and finding blocks that I had never used and being like, wow, that's really cool, why don't I do that? Okay, so obviously a fridge build has to have a fridge. So there we go. A pretty simple one, rudimentary, right? Couple quartz blocks with a iron door. Give the kitchen a little bit more room and put a gate there. I think eventually I'd change that to a trapdoor. I thought it looked a little bit nicer. But yeah, this is a lot of just placing blocks, seeing what they look like, not liking them, getting rid of them, rinse, repeat, until I found something that I liked. So this was another thing I didn't really know existed, was the lit up item frame. I don't know. I don't really know what they were meant to be here. Maybe like trays or cooking spots. I don't know. Then I get the composter for the trash can, obviously. I think a lot of people tend to do that. Here I'm just kind of trying to figure out what the middle section is going to be as far as workspace. So I was just kind of experimenting with like how far away I should put it, what should I make it out of. I experimented a little bit with trapdoors, wasn't a fan. I got rid of them. I did this little thing here with the quartz stairs that I was thinking was like for plates or utensils. Trying to add a little bit more to the scene. Again, just like barrels, forgot they were a block. A really cool block, very useful block. I put signs on them for some reason. But yeah, so then I was pretty much done with the kitchen at this point. I was pretty happy with it as well, with how it turned out. So then my attention shifted to the dining area. Um, so obviously it needed to be lit up. I think in reviewing the footage, something that may have been pretty cool is if I had the lanterns connect the chains in the roof and have them hang like right over the tables. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe next time. So yeah, here I'm just kind of putting the dining spaces in. I went with booths. And then I spent a ton of time trying to figure out where exactly I wanted to put this lectern. I don't know. I finally settled on the spot I put it initially. So, you know, when people would come in and check for reservations or whatever. Yes. So that's kind of something where obviously at a cafe, you just kind of walk in and I don't know that cafes really do reservations, at least not in my experience. So that's one of those things where I was kind of like, maybe it's a little bit more of a restaurant than a cafe, but hey, we'll just pretend, right? Maybe in this universe you do have to get a reservation for a cafe. Maybe for this particular cafe. I don't know, right? Now that was an anomaly. I placed that random stone block. I have no idea why. I I couldn't tell you. Even as I was building it, I went back, found it, and destroyed it, and I was like, why did I place this here? So yeah, I have no idea. It's very strange. So here I am kind of shifting my attention to the outside. For like an exterior dining space. I was kind of done with the interior for the most part and just had an idea. You know, usually I would end the build with the building, I guess. But I was like, nah, you know, it'd be really cool to do an outside space as well. So that's what I was doing. Also, these like deep slate, you know, whatever they're called, awesome block, loved it. Then we had a friend show up. I don't know why wandering traders have such a habit of spawning on my builds, but I had to usher him off the edge. His llamas quickly followed, so yeah. And then I experimented a little bit with how the walls around the exterior dining space were gonna look, and I went back to the stone walls, which I thought was a good choice. Again, like really cool block that I need to use more. And what I'm doing now is kind of one of the things I integrate in all of my builds. In some form or another, I love to have running water in all of my builds. Like I always try to integrate it somehow. It's it's kind of my thing. So initially I tried, you know, doing this thing with leaves. Wasn't a huge fan. Went back to my roots a little bit here. Made it deep enough for the water to, you know, kind of run and then spread out a little bit and lit it up. So at this point I was just making it a little bit bigger, you know, 3 blocks wide, slabs on the top so that you can break the underneath. You place the water like that. And then this was kind of the build that just kept giving. I had another idea for an outside area that I wanted to do. Pretty simple, but, you know, I think it just looked a little nice. I ended up going with like a small garden here. Because, you know, I destroyed the leaves over there and I kind of wanted to still do that, still use that idea in some form. So going back to the deep slate, the walking areas. Set up this spot on the back where I put some vines on it as well. I think it may have also been nice to maybe put some flowers around. But I was kind of running out of time for the build at the moment. So I just, you know, did what I did. And, you know, there's only a couple more things I really did as far as this build is concerned. So we finally get back to the outdoor seating. Finish that. And then did some more stuff with lighting, exterior lighting. Pretty simple but effective. Messing around with the fountain a little bit more as well. Just giving it a little bit more variety, but making the corners stone brick. And then I wanted a little jukebox. You know, and obviously Minecraft already has a block for that, so I did that. Surrounded it with signs. Couldn't tell you why. Thought I just made it look a little bit nicer. And with that, that's pretty much the whole build done. You know, do a little sweep around the area, and then that's it. So, yeah, thanks so much for watching. You know, would love to hear your feedback as far as maybe like ideas for the future, or whether you prefer commentary or not. You know, I figured it was a longer video, so it might be nicer, but yeah. Outside of that, that's all I got for you. So, thanks so much, guys, and until next time, take it easy.